Sure.
And after I had been out in Washington State for several months, I had this very piercing kind of nightmare, the kind where where you wake up and you can't breathe.
Yeah.
And in the nightmare, I was seeing dolphins dying under very specific conditions in a certain type of environment, like a cellar or a vault.
Uh-huh.
And there were many details about the scene that I noticed, and I was trying to get the dolphins out of there, and I couldn't do it by myself.
Uh-huh.
And when I came back to Florida at the end of the year at Evergreen, I learned to my horror that Ruby had died in captivity.
Uh-huh.
And I resolved to go to the oceanarium where she was and just try to find out what had happened to her. When I got there, or actually sometime after I got there, I realized that there was this high degree of congruence between the images in my dream and the actual physical layout of the oceanarium where she was.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like somehow she somehow managed to reach out to me and contact me in some kind of an attempt to try to get me to come and help her or get her out of there, because
right.
She had been separated from the male dolphin and put in a pen by herself. And it appears, although this is scientifically controversial, it appears to me that she basically committed suicide.
Huh. Wow, that's a very heavy experience. Were you able to corroborate that from the people at the oceanarium, or is this just something that you sort of have pieced together yourself?
No. What her trainer told me is that once he separated her from this male dolphin that she'd been kind of pair bonded with,
right.
He said she stopped eating and she went downhill. He called in a vet that gave her some vitamins. She seemed to perk up. And then he said, one morning I just came out and found her dead on the bottom of the tank. Now, the thing about dolphins, and here Rick O'Barry, the dolphin trainer from Flipper, who now works with the situation to end over the dolphin slaughter over Japan. Rick agrees with me that dolphins can commit suicide. And the reason why they can is, Robert, their breathing is voluntary. The dolphins has to think about every breath it takes, every inhalation, every exhalation. And if it goes unconscious, it stops breathing. So if a dolphin holds its breath until it goes unconscious, technically it doesn't drown, it suffocates. But it will die unless there's another dolphin around to lift it back up to the surface and arouse it.
Wow.
So that's what apparently happened to her. And the dream, in retrospect, seems like a warning that I ignored for various reasons, and paid the price for that.
So I'm sure that you experienced a fair amount of grief around this, because this was, a very special experience in your life. I mean, it's very unusual, and obviously you were touched by it. And I mean, how did you feel after you found out she passed away?
I was chronically depressed for several years afterwards. It took me a long time to work through that grief because I really didn't get any counseling or anything for it right away. I just didn't feel that any counselors would be particularly sympathetic or understanding of my situation.
Yeah, who could go there with you on something like that? Right? I mean, that'd be pretty tricky.
Well, these days there's a whole industry of people who do counseling for people who lose animal companions.
Right.
But let's face it, most animal companions aren't quite as tight as I was with that dolphin.
Right.
So I don't know, even these days, I have been helped a great deal by counseling, not only with this, but with other problems in my life. So to all the people out there who tell me I need counseling, been there, done that, own the T-shirt.
What's it been like for you in terms of the realm of public opinion? I mean, have you been called a pervert, or have people treated you with scorn? I mean, I'm pretty non-judgmental about this because I'm interested in what your
Yeah.
experience was, but I'm sure there are other people who may not be, as open as maybe I am or my audience would be. What's some of the feedback you've gotten that could be considered negative around this?
Well, I think the most frequently applied epithet is sick. People are comparing me to a child molester, which I'm not. I'm the victim of childhood sexual abuse. Thank you very much. They're saying that I'm a rapist, which is just so untrue.
Right.
It seems that people have a very narrow sort of idea of what kind of a relationship you can actually have with a non-human partner, especially a non-human partner that is as intelligent and as sensitive as a dolphin. I think the worst abuse I've suffered so far was on Bubba the Love Sponge last week, when I think it was Bubba's little cohort there, Manson, called me a sick son of a bitch, and that inspired me to hang up on him. And apparently that's not the way it's supposed to happen. Apparently Bubba was supposed to hang up on me. So, but after that, my sales shot up. I mean, seriously, they shot up like 500% overnight. So it must have been, somebody must have been listening.
Now, look, I have some bias here, Malcolm, and the reason I have you on the show is because, frankly, it's a dolphin, and I think dolphins are really interesting, and I know for a fact that male dolphins, they'll have erections and they'll rub up against human women all the time, and these are sexually playful, exploratory, mammals, and very, very bright, very intelligent. If you get into kind of the esoteric sort of space around it, the dolphins, theoretically were, along with the whales, the cetaceans were the first beings on this planet, and they were land animals, and if you get into, the Pleiades and the Nomos and the Dogon, the dolphin is a very important, being and source for them in their cosmology. Same as in Australia with the Aboriginal people. I mean, the dolphin is a very significant entity on life in this earth. Now, if you had sex with, say, an armadillo, I mean, quite frankly, I wouldn't have you on my show. I mean, so I have a bias around this, and maybe it's a non-judgmental bias some other people would find, strange or whatever. Not that I'd want to go out and hook up with a dolphin. That's not why I don't have the bias. I just think it's fascinating. So you have had some obviously negative exposure on this. And how do you deal with that? Do you just let it water roll right off your back, so to speak?
Well, at this point, I'm laughing all to the bank. Up to this point, the only thing that has really had an impact on me was right after, on the same afternoon after I'd been in on the SpongeBob the SquarePants show. I got a denial of service attack on both my cell phone and my landline at the same time, and that went on for an hour. I couldn't call out on either line because somebody from a blocked number was calling in on both lines. So I ended up changing one of the numbers, and the attack stopped after about an hour. But that was annoying,
Yeah.
That was about the worst manifestation of, I guess, anti-zoophile bias. Aside from the fact that I lost a major client for my photography, that happened too. I'd had a gig with a magazine here, and for about 5 years I've been shooting and writing stories for them. And after they heard my appearance on Bubba the Love Sponge, they told me my services were no longer required because I reflected badly on them and their advertisers.
Yeah, I guess I mean, yeah. How are they going to? Yeah. I don't know. I don't see the connection really, but whatever.
Well, apparently they'd received some complaints from readers who were familiar with my work and figured out that maybe the Malcolm Brenner in the magazine was the same Malcolm Brenner as the one on Bubba the Love Sponge.
I see. What's your relationship like with women, Malcolm? Have you had okay relationships with terrestrial women? Are you currently in one?
Terrestrial women. No, currently I'm single, but I've been married twice. I was married to my first wife for 12 years, have a grown daughter with her, and I was married to my second wife for 6 years, and I was the stepfather to her 2 children.
And did they know about Ruby?
She did. Both of my ex-wives did, yeah.
And how did they respond to that?
They didn't seem to be an issue for either one of them. They were both rather open-minded people in that respect, and I'm just trying to put something into words, but the thought escaped me. It was not an issue for them, and that's about all I can say.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously you were with them for an extended period of time, and you know, I guess I mean, if you ever really wanted to have a litmus, right, to see, because I think all men have their litmuses about, you know, and women have them too, and it's not just men or women, but it's like if you can go over this line, then you're okay, right? You've like pre-qualified yourself, and you can hang with me. For me, it's like go to my website, read my website. If you like my website, you'll basically like me, right?
Yeah.
And I guess for you, you're really kind of, you know, you've got a pretty I wouldn't say rigid litmus, but it's a pretty clear line. It's like, hey, if you can get behind my story and embrace me, well, then you're really, you know, you're in pretty much.
Yeah, you're an open-minded woman, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I may even have a date going this weekend. I don't know. That's a phone call I'm going to make when I get off the line with you.
Okay. All right. Let's
see. A date
see.
with a woman, I should add.
A date with a woman. Oh, that's good. That's encouraging.
Just to clarify things, yeah.
Okay, so here's one other thing I wanted to ask you, okay?
Yeah.
You know, recently in the press, there have been a number of stories that authors have either fabricated their work. Carlos Castaneda, you know, it's pretty common knowledge that Castaneda embellished, you know, a great deal of his work. James Frey, under the guidance of his publisher, said, make this nonfiction so you can sell more copies, because it's kind of hard for us to sell this as a novel. I'm just going to ask you straight up. I mean, this is a true story. This is not something that you've created to sell books, right? I mean, this is your life that you've fictionalized.
Well, I've got photographs in illustrating the novel of me in the water with the dolphin, of the park and the things like that. And I think this is probably the first time a novel has ever been illustrated with photographs, but we'll just let that go by the wayside.
Okay.
And I think that my work trying to get this published goes back to 1974, when I got an excerpt from this published in a book called Mind in the Waters, that used to be very famous in the marine mammal anti-whaling scene. And you know, I've been pushing this story for a long time, and it's not something I made up. I can't make up stuff that is as weird as the stuff that actually happens to me.
Is the pro dolphin or the Save the Dolphin community, do they embrace you, or do they know what to do with you, or what's your relationship like with those folks?
I don't think they really know what to do with me. Some of them I'm on good terms with some scientists that work with dolphins. One of them said you've had a very intense relationship with them.